Okay, I want to tackle this question real quick. I get some iteration of this several times a day in my comments, either as a question, why don't you run for office, or as like a declarative statement, you should run for office, you need to run for office. And I've touched on this in the past, but I am the last person who should be running for elected office. Do I do volunteer work? Yes. Do I work with grassroots organizations, advocating for our community, advocating for democracy, advocating for food justice, things like that? Yes, absolutely. Am I hoping in the near future to be doing some more significant work here in Portland, trying to help my corner of the city, East Portland? Yes. But I am not somebody who should run for elected office. And I've tried to talk about this in the past. Tabitha Speaks has also talked about this. I think she and I are kind of on the same wavelength in regards to this. I think she said like she could not sit and work with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that's sort of where I'm at as well. I know my own limits very well. I could not work with Jim Jordan, Lauren Boebert, fucking Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz. Like I could never run for elected office on a national level just because I would lose my shit on a regular basis. I would not be of help to my constituents. I would undermine my constituents. I would do a very poor job representing the people who had voted me into office because I'd be getting like thrown out of chambers all the time. I know that about myself. I also understand that I'm incredibly idealistic, like probably to a fault. People in this comment thread here were like, why don't you sign up to take money from Chorus? Why don't you go work for them and do PR for them or something? First of all, they would not want me because I'm usually pretty critical of the Democratic Party. But second of all, I don't take money for sponsorships. I don't take money from organizations where I can't disclose. I haven't taken money from anybody. All of my income is from Patreon, people who like throw me money on Venmo, my YouTube ad revenue, and TikTok revenue, and also like a tiny bit of Facebook revenue. I want to make sure that I'm free to say the things that I want to say and speak my mind with all authenticity. I frequently will get people in my comments who are like, oh, well, why don't you talk about this issue? Or if you don't talk about this issue, then I'm going to unfollow you. Or the opposite of that, if you don't stop talking about this issue, then I'm going to unsubscribe. And I'm always like, cool, you go ahead and do that because I'm not going to change my content to pander for clicks. I'm not going to compromise my integrity. I'm not going to decline to talk about things I really want to discuss. And I'm not going to talk about topics that I have no interest in or I don't feel are important to discuss just because some rando on the internet tells me to. And it's sort of the same position. Like I'm not going to talk about things because I'm paid to do so. I know I have bypassed a tremendous amount of money in the past by declining to take sponsorships. I regularly get emails telling me that I, should do their brand deal or talk up their product or their course or whatever. And I just don't do that. And I think it's sort of the same thing when running for political office. I would have a hard time taking money from the people that I think most politicians have to take money from in order to successfully get elected. I think I would not sleep well at night. I already don't sleep well at night just knowing what my tax dollars fund without my consent, against my will. I'm very idealistic. I'm an anti-capitalist or post-capitalist, depending on how you want to frame that conversation. I think a lot of my politics are probably a little too radical and I may be a little bit too uncompromising on them for me personally. I obviously vote for harm reduction candidates when they're on the ballot. I voted for Kamala Harris. I voted for my Congresswoman Maxine Dexter. She was not my choice in the primary, but when she was on the ballot for the general election, I sure as heck was going to vote for her. But I just think I know myself well enough to know that I would not be good in electoral politics, both from the funding aspect, both from the money aspect, and also from my own behavior, my own inability to partner with and work with people that I have zero respect for, that I think are actively causing harm. I couldn't be on a committee with those people. I couldn't sit in chambers with those folks and control myself. And so I would be a detriment to my constituents if I were to even get elected. I think the best use of my skills and my platform, my voice and my big opinions is to, one, support candidates, talk them up on my platform, but also fund them. People who are much more skilled and qualified to be elected officials, I want to support them, support their campaigns. And then also, once they get into office, continue to support them and also criticize them, push them in the ways I think they should be going. I think there can be this tendency when we see social media creators who can be articulate. I'm not always articulate. Sometimes I stumble over my words and I misspeak and I don't always have great opinions about everything. But I think when we see people who can present as very confident, who can pretty clearly articulate their values and their positions, it can be really easy for us to be like, run for office. And I think this is why I get a fair amount of this. And I'm very flattered by this sentiment. Really, I am. And I don't want to be dismissive of people who keep saying this. I just think I know my skills. And I think that there's so many ways that each and every one of us can fight for a better America, can fight for justice and a good quality of life for our neighbors. There are ways all of us can advocate for, my values are earth care, people care, and fair share. There are ways that we can contribute toward that without having to be in elected office. Some of us should be serving in that role. We need more good people to run for office, more people who are not compromised by AIPAC, who are not compromised by billionaires, more people who are willing to actually represent their constituents instead of corporate and foreign interest. We need more people who are fighters in elected office. But that doesn't mean that everybody who's a fighter is well suited to this position. And it doesn't mean that you can't do something to help. You can't do something to fix this terrible position that we're in unless you run for office. If you feel inspired to run for office, if you think like, gosh, yes, maybe I should run for city council. Maybe I should just run for my local election board. Maybe I want to run for Congress. Hint, hint, if you're in Iowa, right? Joni Ernst just announced that she's not running for re-election. We need some really good progressive candidates to run for Senate in Iowa. I look forward to seeing how that all develops, right? Whoever ends up being on that ticket in Iowa for the Senate race, like, I will donate to your campaign. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to support you and talk you up. As somebody who went to college in Iowa, as somebody who has a lot of fondness for Iowa, I'm really excited to see the way that, Iowa has flipped 2 Senate seats in their state Senate. And now there's this potential growing for sort of a resurgence for Iowa to kind of escape from the Trumperism that they've been immersed in. Is Iowa going to go purple again? Okay, I don't mean to get on a tangent about Iowa, just big soft spot in my heart for Iowans. Maybe this is also why I would be terrible at elected office. I get very long-winded and I'll go down 20 different rabbit holes. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for this. I really, really appreciate it. It's a very kind thing to say. And we need more people who are not bought and paid for. We need more people who understand that elected office is one of public servanthood. It's not a chance to enrich yourself. It's not really a place to be gaining power. It is a place to serve the people of your community, of your state, of this country. Part of the reason that I advocate so hard to get dark money out of our politics, part of the reason that I want so badly for Citizens United to be overturned, why I want campaign finance reform, is because we, the American people, deserve a representative democracy where the folks who are representing us in Congress have our best interest at heart, where they want a country of, by, and for the people, not for corporate interest, not for the oligarchs. So I want to help bring that future about. And so that's one of the reasons I know that I'm very ill-suited for this position, and my energy and my interests, my finances, my voice should be used elsewhere. But again, thank you. Really appreciate this. Thanks for letting me explain.